Jonathan Reed acostumbraba pasear con su perra Susie en las montañas de Cascade Range, a 96 kilómetros al este de Seattle, Washington. Nunca imaginó lo que iba a suceder. Jonathan ve cómo su perra corre alegre entre los árboles. La perra va de un lado a otro gozando como siempre del paseo. En cierto momento, la perra se adentra en el bosque. De pronto, desaparece de la vista de Jonathan. Él la escucha, pero no la puede ver. El tono de los ladridos se vuelve agresivo e incluso desesperado. Jonathan se inquieta. Nervioso va tras ella, guiado por el sonido y pensando que probablemente se había encontrado con un oso. Toma una rama gruesa para protegerse y acelera el paso, aún sin verla. Por fin llega a una cresta. La distingue. El asombro de lo que ve en sus ojos lo dejan petrificado por unos segundos. La perra muerde algo similar a un niño pequeño, pero mal proporcionado, que la agita violentamente haciéndola sangrar y eventualmente la desintegra. Jonathan, temblando de miedo y coraje, se dirige hacia la criatura. Estando a su alcance, le tira un fuerte golpe. En ese momento, Jonathan empieza a sentir cambios en su estado. Parece como si la criatura, yaciendo ahí en el piso, le produjera una serie de malestares para crearse un cerco de protección. Todo es una pesadilla.
At that moment I fell to the ground, sick, very violently sick, throwing up, diarrhea, no muscle control. I could not stand. My breathing was congested, extremely congested. The whole area at that moment felt different, somehow foreign, as if time had maybe been distorted in this area. I needed to find some kind of reality in this moment, but I could find none. Again, I tried to regain my strength, and I sat in this area for many, many hours in reality, but in truth it felt very short in time. I tried to regain my strength, and I would crawl and again fall down.
Pero el suceso no termina ahí. Un zumbido espeluznante hace voltear a Jonathan hacia su izquierda. El sonido proviene de varios metros de distancia de donde él se encuentra, y haciendo un gran esfuerzo, decide localizar su origen.
During my encounter in the woods, at one point I heard this sound coming from somewhere that I could not see. So I looked around and tried to locate the direction that the sound was coming from. I hoped that this was maybe another hiker or a camper in the area, and if so, I needed their help. But it turned out not to be. I looked and searched for this sound, this harmonic ebbing sound that seemed to drift in and out of the trees. But as I reached the point of this sound, I kind of broke through some bushes and some trees and found this black floating shape, which I call the obelisk. It was large, much larger than my body. It was black, completely black. Its surface was shiny and almost had a depth to it. But it looked like stone or marble, some type of stone. It had no windows, no doors, and no seams. It had 6 sides, 6 definite sides. But it was floating in the air. It was not touching the ground. It was as if it was anchored to this spot in the air. And as I ran up to it, I fell against it. And for a moment, I felt like it almost absorbed me into its space. And I felt like I was in this very large black room. And then one instant later, I was back outside and feeling this cold surface against my hand, which almost burned my hand like dry ice. It was a terrifying moment, but truly something that was so surreal that I couldn't even get my mind to believe what I was looking at. But nevertheless, it was there. It was in front of me, and I could not deny this.
Sintiéndose deshidratado, Jonathan recuerda que en su mochila trae una botella con agua, y haciendo un gran esfuerzo, debido a los malestares que estaba sufriendo, decide ir por ella. Al sacarla, se da cuenta que traía su cámara de video y su cámara fotográfica, lo que le da la oportunidad de obtener pruebas de lo que estaba viviendo en ese momento.
I reached for the water, I drank the water, and I realized I have my camera. My God, I have my camera. Maybe I need to try to record what I am now seeing, if for no other reason, to find my own sanity when I return, if I can return home. So after drinking the water, I picked up the camera, I tried to gain some strength, and I started to photograph all of the items in this area that I had seen.
Focus.
Estas son las impresionantes imágenes originales que el Dr. Reed captó con su cámara de video. En ellas es evidente el malestar físico en que se encontraba, falta de respiración, dificultad de movimiento y un gran nerviosismo. Sin embargo, se logra apreciar claramente la cara y el cuerpo del alienígena, como en ningún otro video conocido, convirtiéndolo en una prueba única en su tipo.
This creature, this body that lay on the ground bleeding in front of me from the wound that I inflicted. Only the remains of my dog, this white powder, this white ash at the feet of this creature. And this floating black object that I call the obelisk, floating in the air, not touching the ground. I photographed all of this with the video camera and with a still camera, hoping that something would be recorded, hoping somehow to record this moment and regain my sanity.
Al acercarse al obelisco, Jonathan puede observar cómo a través de su cámara las imágenes se distorsionan. Es evidente que hay interferencia. A punto de perder el control, ve que la cámara funciona mejor cuando se aleja. Teniendo esto en cuenta, se retira de él. Como con la criatura, vuelve a sentir una sintomatología extraña, como si el propio obelisco le produjera dichas sensaciones para crear un halo de protección a su alrededor. Desde unos 30 metros de distancia, Jonathan sigue grabando. Las imágenes se tornan más claras por unos momentos, aunque la interferencia no deja de presentarse de manera intermitente. Una tras otra, Jonathan Reed realiza varias acciones verdaderamente importantes, como sobreponerse a la muerte de su perra, sobreponerse a los malestares físicos que lo atacaron y al impacto de todo lo que estaba siendo testigo, además de tratar de obtener una prueba física que corrobore que lo que está viendo es real.
I had to hide this body. Maybe I was in trouble. Maybe I now had murdered something. My mind was not clear. I was not thinking with much logic other than moment, to continue to breathe, to continue to survive. I almost felt like I was going to die from not being able to breathe.
Jonathan trae una manta térmica y decide envolver a la criatura en ella para poder transportarla.
Decided that I would try to take this thermal blanket, this emergency blanket, and cover this body, maybe to preserve it from the animals that frequented this area, and also to hopefully bring someone back to help me learn and deal with this trauma that I was now experiencing. I unrolled the blanket, not wanting to touch the body, and carefully slid it under this bleeding body, not wanting to touch it, and folded the blanket over. And as I did this, I found a shiny object, maybe 3 feet from the head of this creature, under the brush, under the bushes. I thought was maybe a can, a Coca-Cola can. But as I looked closer, it seemed to be some foreign silver object covered with small symbols. This is what the Link artifact is. At the time, I just picked it up, looked at it, and put it in with the body and wrapped the entire thing up and drug it to the side of the hill some 15, 20 feet away, hoping to find a place to conceal this.
Jonathan nota que la criatura pesa muy poco y decide llevarla hasta su jeep, en lo que piensa más claramente lo que hará con el cuerpo.
From the moment that I got in my Jeep, I tried to drive approximately 60 miles to my home. I stopped one time at a ranger station in the woods, in the forest, to maybe get help from this man, this place. But there was no one there. So I got back in my Jeep and continued on to my home.
La seguridad de su hogar hace que Jonathan Reed decida poner a la criatura en un congelador grande que tenía en su garage para evitar su descomposición.
After spending many hours in my home, after bringing this body home, again I returned to the garage to somewhat try to understand if this in fact really was happening. I opened the freezer, I looked inside, and yes, there was this creature. I cleaned some of it debris off of it, some pine needles from the forest. I took out this small silver bracelet type piece of metal, and I carried the body into my rec room, into my house, to videotape it. And this is the tape that you will see. I opened this up, and again I was very sick. I was still having many troubles breathing, but I needed to record this. I needed to record it for me, if for no one else, to make sure that I was seeing what I felt was in front of me, what the reality of this moment was. So I did this alone, and I opened the blanket, and I looked at this body.
Lo que Jonathan Reed ve en ese momento es extraordinario. Se trata de un ser cuyo tamaño es comparable en proporción al de un niño, pero con diferencias significativas. Las líneas de las mandíbulas son completamente diferentes. No hay ningún canal auditivo externo. Su piel se aprecia de un gris verdoso con una textura como la de un cerdo. Y los ojos son bulbosos y húmedos. Su boca asemeja a la de un pez, sin nariz ni vello. Su ropa de color gris oscuro, casi negra, ajustada al cuerpo a manera de una segunda piel, cubre completamente brazos, piernas, pies y manos con guantes del mismo material que el traje, continuos y sin costuras.
I looked at its hands and its head. I looked at the wound that in fact I had inflicted by hitting this branch in the woods. I saw the blood. I didn't realize at the time that in fact this creature was not dead. I felt that it was dead. And only 3 days later did I realize that even in this video, in this moment, you could see signs of its eyes moving and its facial muscles moving. But because of my sickness, because of my fatigue, and maybe because I did not want to accept this reality, I did not see this eye movement at this time.
Atormentaron durante su encuentro en el bosque. Jonathan decide llamar a su amigo Gary para que le ayude a manejar la situación en la que se encuentra. La criatura es bautizada por Gary con el nombre de Freddy. Jonathan sabe que deben de dar a conocer los hechos al mundo y decide hablar con amigos y profesores de confianza para que lo orienten sobre lo que debe hacer. Gary lo ayuda haciendo algunas llamadas a agencias gubernamentales, sin imaginarse las consecuencias que les traerían posteriormente. Sucesos extraños se van ocurriendo los días siguientes. Jonathan acude a un profesor de la universidad de toda su confianza y éste, a última hora, le niega su ayuda de manera misteriosa. 3 días después, al llegar a su casa, el Dr. Reed escucha unos ruidos extraños provenientes del congelador donde se encontraba el cuerpo de Freddy.
But I heard a sound that seemed to be coming from behind the freezer. And I thought a scratching sound, a kind of a rubbing or scratching sound. I thought maybe it was the compressor going out on the freezer that keeps the cold in the freezer. And if this was happening, the body, this dead body, would be decomposing. And I would have to find a place to store this very quickly. So I thought the best way to see if this was in fact happening was to open the lid and look at the thermometer that was at the top of the lid of the freezer inside. This would tell me if the temperature was rising, in fact, the compressor not working. So without question, without thinking, I had done this many times, I walked over, opened the lid of the freezer to find only that this creature had sat up out of the end of this thermal blanket and was now screaming at me with this terrible scream, this violently energized scream that felt like something was pressing against my chest, almost compressing the air from my lungs. I was horrified. I could not imagine that this creature was alive now and staring and screaming at me. I let go of the lid closed down, the creature was in the freezer, and I ran for my house. Petrified, terrified of this moment, because now this creature that I had killed, I had thought I had killed, was now alive with this wound that I had inflicted, maybe now going to kill me. I was terrified. I was an emotional disaster at this moment. I went in the house. I didn't know what to think. I had no logic. I had no conception of what direction to go.
La criatura podría ser la respuesta a las preguntas que tanto tiempo nos hemos hecho los seres humanos sobre la vida en otros planetas, sobre nuestra misma especie y quizá una nueva dirección para la comunidad científica.
The only thing I can conceive is possibly maybe the cold environment somehow he felt safe in. I don't know. I don't have this answer. But I do know that for many days before this, for 3 days, I had been taking this body out, displaying it, showing it to many of the people that I worked with, to Gary, trying to do an analysis of the body itself, looking at the wound, touching its skin, opening its eyes and its mouth, never ever realizing at this moment that this in fact was a living creature, that he was in fact not dead, he was alive. I was terrified at this thought.
A partir de aquí, Jonathan entabla un tipo de comunicación con el ser. En varias ocasiones realiza visitas al garage y se da cuenta de que efectivamente se trata de un ser inteligente con el que puede comunicarse.
After Freddy was up and alive and in front of me in my garage in my home, I was able to establish somewhat of a rapport with him to try to gain his trust to me and mine to him. to try to establish some form of exchange. I felt that I had abused him and hurt him in the beginning, but after a while I felt that this trust had begun in both of us. I tried to give him food, which he didn't take from me. I tried to talk with him as best I could. I also extended myself by giving him water, which one day he took from me. I had it in a small cup, which I poured in the garage and extended to him, first on the floor, and then I backed away to make sure that he was not in fear of me being aggressive. But later I actually was able to hand him this water with my hand, and he would extend his arm and his hand and take from me this cup. And in fact, one day or two later, he actually took the cup, drank the water from me, and threw the cup at me across the room, which I was very surprised when this happened. But I believe that through this process, I was able to gain his trust and somewhat learn to communicate on a instrumental basis, a primary basis. Many times I would go to the garage and sit 10 feet from this, where he would literally watch me and I would watch him. I think we built a trust, somewhat of a respect. I learned that he had many abilities, far beyond what I could imagine. I felt that he was extremely intelligent. I know that he had telepathy, powers of telepathy, to put images and ideas from not only his mind, but also from my mind, and replay them to me as if a motion picture from my past when I was a child. But also many images from, I believe, his world and his concept of his life. Many feelings, many emotions. I think there was fear from both of us for not understanding each other. But I think over time, over these 9 days, we gained an understanding of each other's respect. I felt after spending many, many hours, in fact, in what I consider conversation, telepathy conversation with Freddie, that he understood that I was sorry for the trauma that I inflicted on him. That it was only in self-defense of myself and my dog, what I witnessed in the woods, did I strike him to defend myself. I believe he understood this. I believe he was, in fact, okay with this. And now that he was alive, he was healing, he was not destroying me, he was not attacking me, and I was not attacking him, there was some degree of exchange of this feeling, of this information between us, which I believe is the reason why he has continued to, in fact, return. In fact, I have had other encounters with this same being.
Jonathan decide ponerse en contacto clandestinamente con el que llamara el profesor X, quien se encuentra internado en una clínica de Seattle. Algunos especulan que el profesor X es el científico Carl Sagan, quien le proporciona una lista de personas que lo pueden ayudar. Al mismo tiempo, Jonathan Reed empezó a recibir llamadas extrañas y notó que camionetas misteriosas lo seguían cada vez que salía a la calle. Esto lo obliga a ser más cauteloso y decide distribuir y esconder la evidencia que tiene para que posteriormente pueda sacarse a la luz y que los demás comprendan su historia.
The entire 9 days from the start of this event, I had gathered many things. I had taken many pictures, 35 millimeter pictures, videotapes, audio tapes of this creature and everything, all of my involvement in my home. I started to feel that all of this was in jeopardy, that my life was in jeopardy. We had been followed many times. My friends in cars, in vans. We had been run off the road. People had shot at one of my cars with a gun. We were very afraid. Gary and I had tried to telephone many people to ask questions. What if the possibility occurred that someone would have found something like this? What would a person do? Where would you go? Who would you talk to? Who could you trust? Many times we received nothing more than, "Oh, you're crazy," and would hang up. We called the Air Force. The Air Force said, "We have no interest in this." We called chapters of the MUFON group, which is the Mutual UFO Network organization that is worldwide. Later on, only to find that these people were not, in fact, this true organization. But they had monitored many calls from many people, including ours, and we believe that this phone call was probably the one that got the attention of the people that I call the dark side. Some people call these people men in black. Some people call them the military or the dark force to suppress this kind of information from ever coming out into the public. I believe we triggered somehow this organization in our attempt to get help to deal with this. Because 2 days later, there was a knock on my front door, and there were 3 people standing there that said, "Jonathan, we need to talk to you about what you found." And I had not called these people at all. In fact, they had communicated either by intercepting these phone calls or someone had called them, in fact. These people were very abrasive to me. These people asked me questions about my life, about whether or not I was willing to give up my career, my credentials, the hope for a better future for myself and possibly my family. If I was to go public with any of this information, that all of my life could possibly be in jeopardy. These people were threatening to me, but they were very professional. They were very organized. This was not a vigilante group of people. This was a highly professional group of interrogators and people who knew what they were doing. They told me that, in fact, they had worked with many different organizations within the United States government and other governments. They never told me specifically what branch of government they were, other than they belonged to a group called the School. They told me that if I did not work with them and cooperate and give to them not only all of the information that I had gotten or evidence, that they, in fact, would send someone else who would not be as nice, would not be as kind, and most likely would destroy my life.
Los visitantes se van tal y como llegaron, pero sus amenazas quedan. Jonathan, sin lugar a dudas, está envuelto en serios problemas.
Once things started to change over 3 or 4 days, I found that many things in my life were being taken away, were being extracted or erased from my life. One of those was my bank account. I lost a lot of money overnight. I lost my right to work. My job was taken away. My credentials from my education from 2 different colleges were erased overnight. Why was this? Because I found something in the woods that nobody had seen before? Because this was important? I don't believe this was necessary. In fact, if this hadn't have been done, I possibly would have cooperated with these people that did this damage to my life. They also took things from me that made no sense. They weren't evidence from this encounter. They were evidence of my life, of my family's existence, of my life in my school, and many things. They literally destroyed my life overnight.
Las acciones en su contra fueron brutales, cumpliendo sus amenazas. El allanamiento y eventual destrucción de su casa no se dejó esperar. Hicieron agujeros por todas las paredes y destrozaron los muebles. Era evidente que buscaban algo y no pararían hasta encontrarlo.
I had taken many things from my home, many pieces of evidence, trying to store them in safe places, knowing full well that my house had been entered and hoping that not everything had been stolen at that moment. On the 9th day, I returned to my home in my car to find many vans parked in front and behind my house. I only observed this from my car in passing. I was not going to stop, knowing full well in my mind that they were taking my evidence. I drove to a friend's house for many hours, only to return to my house finding it empty, finding all of my furniture torn apart. Most of the evidence that was still in my house was now gone. There were holes in the floor, there were holes in the ceiling, some as wide as 2-3 feet in the plaster that they had cut like as if they were looking and probing for something that maybe I had hidden, which I hadn't in these spots. There were holes in the grass in the yard, like something had been stuck and probed maybe every foot looking for I don't know what. But obviously they had been very thorough. They had taken almost everything. The toilet had been removed from the floor. The water was running. The sink was ripped from the wall in the bathroom. Why this? I don't know. It was insane to me. But it was definite that they were thorough and they were looking for anything they could find. I entered the garage. The freezer, where it normally was gone. I thought in my mind, they've got Freddie. They've taken him because he's nowhere to be found. And I thought they have been absolute in this. But then I saw across the floor of the garage what looked like small, frosty footprints, very silvery-like footprints of moisture that went to the wall. Not to the door, not to the window, but to the wall, and stopped, as if he had walked right through the wall. At that moment, I felt and I had hoped that he had gotten away, and that they did not, in fact, have him. You know, that they did not seize his body. I know now, because of living through this, that Freddie, in fact, did survive this and did escape. That he was not taken by these men in black, or the dark side, as I call them. At that moment, I decided I had no life. I needed to leave this space because I was in fear for my life. I was in fear that they were going to come back and take me or kill me. So I left my life. I left my city. I continued to travel for many months, and I lived in my car, and I lived on the street, and I had to endure. I had to try to survive in a world that was not only foreign to me, but out of my reality, out of my comfort zone. I had very little money, I had very little help, and at this moment it was a matter of survival. So I left the United States and went to Canada.
Posteriormente, encuentra refugio con el grupo de gente que el profesor X le había contactado. Un grupo al que él llama la Alianza. Gente con muchos recursos que lo acoge y lo cobija cuando más lo necesita. Lo ayuda a reponerse material y espiritualmente.
The group that I have called the Alliance is a group of people throughout the world who have helped many people who have had contact over many, many years. They helped me by giving me shelter, by expressing to me the importance of encounters like my own and others that have happened in the past. I have mixed emotions about this group because sometimes they have helped me, definitely, and at other times I think they hinder the release of information because their intent is slow education for all of humankind, Sometimes people like me become a little radical, a little bit excited about wanting to get this information out. And I think sometimes they want to be more tranquil with this spreading and continuing education about the alien presence throughout the world. I do believe they helped me. I do believe they saved my life. So for this, I am very thankful.
Es una especie de brazalete, el Link, como dio en llamarlo. Un artefacto estudiado y analizado por la Universidad de Osaka, en Japón. El material que cubre la superficie está mezclado con plata y es muy brilloso y reflejante. Su composición es una mezcla de silicón, aluminio con magnesio, zinc, oro y otros componentes imposibles de definir.
The Link artifact is a bracelet-type device that we have determined to be some type of communication and teleportation device. It is a metal bracelet that fits relatively around the arm or wrist, and by pushing its surface, it actually closes like a C, tightly around the wrist, molding and modifying its shape to fit the person or the alien wearing it. Its surface is designed and constructed of many, many layers of material, some known by human and some unknown. These materials are in some form as thin as 2 microns. This is extremely thin. A human hair is 10 microns thick. These are many, many, many layers designed to create a sandwich that is only 3/16 of an inch in total. But the surface of this artifact is molded, not a flat surface, but almost a sculpture in essence. A beautiful design, a beautiful piece of technology. When worn, we've found that it, when activated, actually creates a communication between the person or being wearing it and the extraterrestrials who own this and control this, the ones that I call Freddy's superiors. This truly is a unique structure. Its surface on the top has 3 definite symbols. These symbols are raised, in essence, to create almost a button-like effect, somehow creating a communication with the owners, the extraterrestrials. And somehow they, in this moment, determine whether you are to be activated and transported. This is a 2-phase process. Not just the person or the being wearing it, but you are actually asking permission for them to make this activation. I believe that this is truly one of the most unique finds of all extraterrestrial artifacts in the world. It is also one of the only ones that is in working condition.